It's a strange thing. People crave closeness, but the moment it actually arrives, they recoil. Why? Because intimacy exposes who you really are. It strips away the mask you've spent years constructing. When she pulls away after getting close, it's not always rejection. Sometimes it's terror. The terror of being seen, of being vulnerable, of trusting that someone won't destroy what's fragile inside her. When she pulls away after getting close, most people instinctively assume something went wrong. Maybe she lost interest. Maybe she found someone else. Maybe you did something to push her away. But often, the truth runs much deeper, and it has little to do with you. The act of pulling away, especially after emotional closeness, is rooted in fear. Not fear of you, but fear of vulnerability. This fear is ancient, primal, and deeply human. It's not simply emotional hesitation. It's a defense mechanism wired into the psyche as a way of preserving safety and control in the face of intimacy. Think about it this way: closeness is exposure. When someone allows you in, truly in, they're giving you a front row seat to their most private, unguarded self. Every flaw, every insecurity, every wound that's been carefully hidden from the world is suddenly at risk of being seen. That's terrifying, especially for someone who has been hurt before. For her, vulnerability isn't a peaceful act of connection. It's an act of danger. Her body, her nervous system, remembers what happened the last time she opened up. The betrayal, the disappointment, the emotional chaos. That memory becomes embedded, not just as a thought, but as a felt sense of threat. So when she feels closeness growing, her subconscious goes into high alert. It's not that she doesn't want love, she does, but she's conditioned to expect pain to follow it. The warmth of intimacy triggers the same circuits that once warned her of heartbreak, and suddenly she feels herself pulling back, creating space, retreating into solitude. It's not always a conscious choice. It's an automatic reaction, a psychological reflex designed to protect what feels fragile and uncertain. From the outside, this can look like mixed signals. One day she's affectionate, the next she's distant. One week she's open, the next she's guarded. You might find yourself confused, frustrated, wondering what changed. But what changed isn't her feelings, it's her tolerance for vulnerability. Emotional closeness floods her system with sensations that feel both exhilarating and terrifying. Her logical mind might tell her that you're trustworthy, but her emotional body doesn't believe it yet. It's caught in a tug of war between safety and connection, between the need to be loved and the need to protect herself. And here's the painful paradox: the very thing she craves, love, acceptance, closeness, is the thing that frightens her most. To open herself to love means surrendering control. It means taking off the armor that once kept her safe. It means letting someone see not the curated version of herself, but the raw, imperfect human one. That level of exposure is uncomfortable, even for the strongest among us. For her, it's almost unbearable. In modern relationships, we often underestimate the power of early emotional wounds. A childhood filled with inconsistency, criticism, neglect, or betrayal teaches a person that closeness isn't safe. It builds a framework of distrust that lingers long into adulthood. Even when life presents someone safe and kind, the old programming still runs. The brain whispers, be careful. Don't trust too quickly. Don't get hurt again. And so she listens, not because she wants to sabotage love, but because she wants to survive it. If you truly want to understand what's happening when she pulls away, you must look beneath the surface behavior. You have to see the fear behind the withdrawal. This isn't about rejection, it's about self-preservation. The more intense the connection feels, the more threatening it becomes. The closer she gets to you, the more she risks losing herself, or worse, being abandoned. The instinct to step back isn't cruelty. It's the mind's desperate attempt to manage an internal storm. So what should you do? The answer isn't to chase her, to plead, or to prove yourself. That only heightens her fear, confirming that closeness equals pressure. Instead, give her space, but not silence. Let your steadiness become her safety. When she retreats, don't take it as a personal attack. Recognize it for what it is, an expression of fear. By responding with patience instead of panic, you show her something she's never experienced before, that love can be calm, predictable, and safe. Fear of vulnerability doesn't disappear overnight. It dissolves slowly through consistent emotional safety. Each time she edges closer and doesn't get hurt, her system rewrites the script. She learns that being open doesn't always end in pain, that love doesn't always demand the loss of self. And when that lesson takes root, she won't just return, she'll open more fully than before. In the end, her pulling away isn't the end of connection. It's the beginning of her healing, but only if you can see her fear for what it truly is, not a rejection of you, but a reflection of the wounds she's still learning to trust someone with. Closeness is one of the most paradoxical experiences in human relationships. Everyone says they want it, the feeling of being seen, understood, and emotionally safe with another person. But when it finally happens, when two people truly start to connect on a deep and vulnerable level, it often triggers fear instead of peace. Why? Because closeness equals risk. The closer you get to someone, the more you have to lose. Love, connection, and intimacy demand that you open yourself to uncertainty, and uncertainty always carries the potential for pain. For someone who's been hurt before, the idea of getting close again feels like walking into a battlefield without armor. They might crave the warmth of connection, yet every step closer makes them anxious. Emotional intimacy exposes the raw, unedited version of yourself, the one you try to keep hidden. It reveals your insecurities, your past wounds, your mistakes, and your unmet needs. That exposure can feel unbearable because it removes the illusion of control. When someone knows you deeply, they also gain the power to hurt you deeply. That's the silent equation most people fear, even if they can't articulate it. Many people associate love with loss, not safety. Their history has taught them that opening up leads to rejection, betrayal, or abandonment. So even when a relationship feels right, their subconscious prepares for something to go wrong. They might start creating distance, pulling back emotionally, or questioning their own feelings. They tell themselves they're just needing space, but what they're really doing is trying to manage the risk. The body remembers every past heartbreak, every time trust was broken, and it treats closeness as a potential threat. This is where the human paradox becomes painfully clear. The same closeness that can heal also has the power to destroy. It can build trust or awaken trauma. The mind knows connection is necessary for growth, but the heart fears the pain it might bring. So people develop protective strategies, emotional walls, detachment, overthinking, even self-sabotage to avoid being too exposed. They say they want love, but deep down, they're terrified of what love might demand from them. And that's what makes intimacy such a profound act of courage. To love someone, or even to let yourself be loved, means willingly stepping into uncertainty. It means accepting that you could be hurt but choosing connection anyway. In a world obsessed with control and self-protection, that's a radical act. It's why true closeness is so rare, because it requires emotional risk, and most people have spent their lives avoiding risk. Think of how relationships often unfold. In the beginning, everything feels light and effortless. Both people show their best selves, but as time passes and emotional investment deepens, the stakes rise. Now, it's not just about attraction, it's about attachment. Suddenly, words matter more, silences sting harder, and vulnerability feels heavier. The closer you get, the more you start to fear losing what you found. This fear can make people behave in contradictory ways. They crave connection but act distant. They seek reassurance but reject comfort. They love you but can't fully let you in. From a psychological perspective, this reaction isn't weakness, it's self-preservation. Our brains are wired to avoid pain, and emotional exposure feels like walking straight into it. When we risk closeness, we risk rejection, and rejection can feel like a form of death to the ego. It threatens the sense of self we've carefully built. So, instead of facing that fear directly, people retreat behind emotional defenses. They may seem cold or indifferent, but underneath that surface is anxiety, the anxiety of being truly known. This is why empathy and patience are so powerful in relationships. When someone fears closeness, they're not being difficult. They're protecting themselves from an invisible threat. You can't force them to lower their guard. You can only create an environment where it's safe to do so. That means showing consistency, keeping your word, and respecting their boundaries. Every act of reliability chips away at the fear that intimacy equals danger. Over time, that fear transforms into trust. But the process isn't quick. It requires emotional maturity, the ability to understand that love isn't just about passion or chemistry. It's about endurance. It's about staying calm when the other person's fear rises. It's about recognizing that their hesitation is not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their history. When you grasp that, you stop taking their withdrawal personally. You begin to see that closeness is not only a privilege, but a test of your ability to hold space for another person's wounds without running from them. In the end, closeness and risk are inseparable. You can't have one without the other. If you want to love deeply, you have to accept that love may hurt. If you want to connect authentically, you must surrender control. That's the cost of genuine intimacy, but it's also its greatest gift. Because only when you're willing to take that risk do you experience what real connection feels like. Two imperfect people choosing trust over fear again and again. When she pulls away after getting close, what you're witnessing is not a change of heart, but an inner war, a silent, exhausting conflict between two opposing forces inside her, the need for love and the fear of being hurt. This is the third keynote. the inner conflict. It's a battle that takes place beneath her words, beneath her behavior, deep in the emotional core where logic doesn't reach. One part of her wants to stay, to trust, to surrender to closeness. The other part is terrified that if she does, she'll lose herself, her safety, or the stability she's worked so hard to build. This conflict doesn't happen by choice. It's the result of conditioning, emotional memories that were never resolved. When a person experiences pain, betrayal, or abandonment in the past, their brain links intimacy with danger. It's not just an idea, it's a felt reaction in the body. Every time closeness grows, the nervous system detects threat. Her pulse quickens, her chest tightens, and her instincts whisper, "You're too exposed. Step back before it's too late." She may not even understand why she feels uneasy, but her body remembers the past far better than her mind wants to. Imagine two powerful voices inside her. The first voice is gentle and hopeful. It says, "He cares. This feels right. Maybe this time is different." The second voice is cautious and sharp. It warns, "Don't be naive. Don't get too close. You know how this ends." These voices aren't just emotional noise. They represent two psychological systems working in conflict, attachment, and defense. The attachment system seeks connection, warmth, and closeness. The defense system seeks safety through distance and control. When both activate at once, she's torn between love and self-protection. That's why her behavior seems inconsistent. She might text you affectionately one day and become distant the next. She might open up about something deep, then withdraw as if she said too much. It's not manipulation, it's confusion. She's trying to manage her fear without losing her desire. Her withdrawal is an attempt to find equilibrium, to slow down an emotional process that feels like it's moving too fast for her comfort. In her mind, stepping back equals safety, even if it causes pain. From the outside, this can look unfair or even hurtful. You might feel like she's sending mixed signals or playing games, but what's really happening is that she's overwhelmed by two powerful emotional truths that coexist but cannot reconcile easily. She wants intimacy, but she's afraid of it. She trusts you, but she's also waiting for the moment you prove she shouldn't. She loves connection, yet she fears the dependency it brings. This push and pull dynamic is the visible symptom of a much deeper struggle, the longing to feel safe in love while simultaneously fearing what love might cost. The most painful part of this inner battle is that she often blames herself for it. She may think, "What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal?" Shame compounds the problem, making her retreat further. She starts believing that no one will ever understand her complexity, that her fear makes her unlovable. But the truth is, this conflict is not a flaw. It's a defense that once kept her alive, emotionally speaking. It's how she learned to survive environments where trust wasn't rewarded, where closeness led to pain instead of comfort. If you're the person on the other side of that conflict, your role isn't to fix her. You can't erase the fear that lives in her nervous system, and trying to do so will only make her feel pressured. What you can do is understand that her distance is part of her healing process. When you respond with patience instead of frustration, you communicate something powerful, that she's safe even when she's uncertain. That message slowly quiets the fearful voice inside her. Over time, her system learns that connection doesn't have to mean loss of control. This internal tug of war may last for a while. There will be moments when she leans in, soft, trusting, open, and moments when she recoils, frightened by her own vulnerability. Don't mistake those moments for rejection. They're signs that she's navigating something much bigger than the relationship itself. She's learning to coexist with her fear rather than obey it. That's what healing looks like, not the absence of fear, but the courage to move forward in spite of it. When love meets fear, conflict is inevitable. But if both people understand the battlefield, if they can recognize that withdrawal isn't hostility but protection, then love has a chance to grow in a new way. It becomes patient instead of reactive, compassionate instead of conditional. In that space, she doesn't have to choose between love and safety. She begins to realize that both can exist together. That true connection doesn't demand the death of self-preservation, but rather the transformation of it. And when that realization finally takes root, the conflict that once pulled her apart starts to dissolve. What's left is a deeper kind of love, one born not from fantasy, but from understanding. When someone starts to pull away, especially after a deep emotional connection, the natural instinct for most people is to chase, to close the gap, to demand answers, to fix what feels suddenly broken. But that's the very thing that often pushes the person even further away. The fourth keynote, a patience over pressure, is a principle that separates relationships that survive fear from those that collapse under it. When someone retreats emotionally, especially someone who struggles with vulnerability, what they need isn't persuasion or proof. They need space to breathe, space to feel safe again. Patience is not passivity. It's an act of strength, of restraint, and of deep emotional intelligence. When you pressure someone who's already anxious about closeness, you unintentionally reinforce their fear. They begin to associate intimacy with suffocation, connection with control. They might have started pulling away because the emotions were too intense, because they felt exposed. If your reaction is to push harder, to chase, to demand reassurance, you confirm the very belief they're trying to protect themselves from, that love will overwhelm them, that being close means losing freedom. It's not that they don't care. It's that their internal system needs time to regulate. Emotional safety can't exist in a pressured environment. Patience, on the other hand, sends an entirely different message. It tells them, you can step back and I'll still be here, calm, grounded, and secure. It teaches them that love doesn't have to be frantic or demanding. When someone pulls away out of fear, what they are really testing, often unconsciously, is whether the relationship can handle distance. Can it survive without constant validation? Can it remain stable when things feel uncertain? If you respond with composure instead of panic, you show them something new. That love can exist without control. It's important to understand that patience is not about waiting in silence or suppressing your own needs. It's about understanding timing. Emotional growth is not linear, and for someone who fears closeness, progress often comes in waves. They lean in, then step back, then return again. Each cycle isn't regression, it's rehearsal. They're teaching their nervous system that intimacy is safe, little by little. Every time you respond to withdrawal with empathy instead of anger, you help rewire their associations around love. The space you give them becomes the very thing that draws them back. Patience is a reflection of your own emotional maturity. It requires you to resist the ego's urge to chase reassurance. It means holding your own center even when things feel uncertain. Many people confuse patience with weakness, but it's actually a form of discipline. It's choosing to stay steady rather than reactive. In relationships, the person with more emotional regulation sets the tone. If you can remain calm in the face of their withdrawal, you offer an anchor, and anchors are what fearful hearts crave most. This doesn't mean tolerating neglect or disrespect. Healthy patience is balanced with boundaries. You can care deeply for someone and still protect your own emotional well-being. You can say, I understand you need space, while also recognizing that you deserve consistency. The key is to give them the room to come back willingly, not through guilt or persuasion, but through trust. True closeness can't be forced. It must be chosen freely over and over again. It's worth remembering that many people who pull away after closeness aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect themselves from being hurt again. To them, distance feels like control. When they step back and you don't panic, they learn that control isn't necessary. You're not a threat. You're not someone who will use their vulnerability against them. Over time, this sense of safety does more to build intimacy than any words ever could. Patience is what transforms love from something reactive into something resilient. It allows the relationship to mature beyond the initial excitement and into something deeper, something built on understanding rather than fear. When you rush, you're trying to meet your own anxiety. When you wait with awareness, you're helping heal theirs. It's the difference between demanding connection and nurturing it. The truth is, everyone needs patience, not just those who fear intimacy. Relationships are living systems that grow at their own pace. You can't force trust any more than you can force a flower to bloom faster. All you can do is create the right conditions: honesty, consistency, empathy, and time. If the connection is real, it will return stronger because of your restraint, not in spite of it. In the end, patience over pressure isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing, staying steady when emotions fluctuate, maintaining compassion when distance appears, and holding space without resentment. It's understanding that love is not proven through intensity, but through endurance. The person who can stay calm in uncertainty is the one who creates safety, and safety, not pressure, is what turns temporary fear into lasting trust. When someone has been hurt, misunderstood, or betrayed in the past, their instinct is to protect themselves from ever feeling that kind of pain again. They might build walls, act distant, or avoid emotional exposure altogether. But when they meet someone patient and emotionally aware, someone who understands their hesitation rather than condemns it, something powerful begins to happen. That's the heart of the fifth keynote. If healing through understanding, real love doesn't fix people by force, it heals them through empathy. When you choose to see beyond a person's defenses and recognize the fear beneath them, you stop reacting to their wounds and start responding to their humanity. Many people think healing comes from grand gestures, deep conversations, or promises that things will be different. But the truth is far simpler. Healing happens in the quiet consistency of how you show up. It's in your tone when they're distant. It's in your calm when they panic. It's in your choice not to mirror their fear, but to steady it. Understanding becomes a kind of medicine, one that seeps into the cracks where trust was once broken. You don't need to say, "I'll heal you." You show it through your patience, your gentleness, your ability to listen without judgment. When someone fears closeness, it's not that they don't want love, it's that love has always come with pain. Their nervous system doesn't distinguish between past and present. It reacts the same way. Every time they start to open up, their body remembers what happened the last time they trusted someone. So, when you respond to that fear with frustration or insecurity, you unintentionally confirm their belief that love equals danger. But when you respond with understanding, when you stay calm, curious, and compassionate, you give their body a new experience. You show them that closeness can exist without chaos. Slowly, that experience begins to overwrite the old memory. Healing through understanding doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or becoming someone's emotional caretaker. It means seeing the why behind the as what. When she pulls away, it's not rejection, it's protection. When she gets quiet, it's not indifference, it's fear. When you can see that her defenses are not weapons but shields, you begin to interact with her differently. Instead of reacting to the wall, you acknowledge the wounded hides. That's what makes her feel seen, not just for who she is when she's open, but for who she is when she's scared. The power of understanding lies in its ability to disarm. You can't force someone to trust you, but you can make trust feel safe again. You do that by being predictable, by keeping your word, by refusing to punish vulnerability. When you respond with empathy rather than ego, you create a relationship where both people can breathe. That's when healing begins to unfold, not as a dramatic transformation, but as a slow returning of peace. It's also important to understand that understanding is a two-way process. You can't heal someone for them. You can only offer the environment in which healing becomes possible. Your understanding gives her the courage to face her fear, but she must still choose to confront it. True healing requires her participation, her willingness to step back into the light, even when the shadow of the past still lingers. Your role isn't to carry her pain, but to remind her she's strong enough to face it. This process can test you. There will be moments when your patience runs thin, when you question whether your empathy is being taken for granted. But that's where understanding yourself becomes equally important. You can only offer genuine compassion if you're also grounded in self-respect. Healing through understanding doesn't mean losing yourself in someone else's struggle. It means holding compassion and boundaries at the same time. You can say, "I understand your fear, but I also need honesty." You can be kind without being a savior. That balance is what makes understanding powerful rather than self-destructive. When love is grounded in empathy, it changes people. Slowly, the walls start to lower, not because you demanded it, but because they finally feel safe enough to. She begins to associate your presence with peace instead of pressure. The moments of withdrawal become shorter, and the returns become deeper. What once felt like a cycle of fear becomes a rhythm of trust. That's what true healing looks like, not perfection, but progress. In time, she may not even realize how much she's changed. She'll notice that she no longer feels the need to run, that closeness no longer feels suffocating, and she'll remember how you made her feel, not through words, but through the steady warmth of your presence. That's the legacy of understanding. It teaches love to feel safe again. Healing through understanding is the foundation of lasting connection. It's what turns relationships from emotional battlegrounds into sanctuaries. When you choose to see someone through the lens of empathy instead of ego, you don't just comfort them, you help them rediscover their capacity to trust, to love, and to live without fear. That's not just healing for them, it's healing for you too. Because in the act of understanding another person's wounds, you become more human yourself.